Hello, ladies. It is great to see all the red today. I'm super pumped about today, and I thank you for the opportunity to be able to speak to you all. Now, when you first look at me, you don't have to answer out loud, okay? But what comes to your mind?
Healthy.
Or do you see what's really going on? Which, I have dilated cardiomyopathy, and I'm in stage 2 heart failure. The only cure for the heart disease that I have will eventually be a heart transplant. I am only 35 years old. So, although I might look healthy on the outside, you never know what's going on the inside unless you do and take preventative measures. So I want to tell you a little bit about my history because this is also a really important factor for me for heart disease. When I was 11 years old, my dad was a coal miner. He was the big burly worker, went to work every day, all-American guy. He was 42 years old, and he went into cardiac arrest in front of me and my sister and my mother. We had no idea what was going on. So he went to the hospital. He was diagnosed with dilated cardiomyopathy. This was a completely foreign diagnosis to all of us. We had never heard anything like this. So we learned that the only cure for him was a heart transplant. So my family began dealing with heart disease. And you got to remember, I'm 11 years old, so I had no clue, or nor could I fathom what I would watch my family go through. So my dad waited for 7 years. And after 7 years of struggling and fighting for his life, my family was told that he had a month to live. 6 days after we were told that he had a month to live, we received a call that he had an organ donor. He received his heart transplant, and he lived for 14 more years. He was the perfect patient. He ate healthy. He watched his diet. He exercised. He took his medication on time. He did everything that his doctor told him to. But his heart began to harden, and he went into heart failure again. The only cure for him again would be a heart transplant. Now, usually people that get one transplant, you get one transplant. That's your second chance at life. It's a miracle that you receive a transplant. So my dad opted to have an LVAD placed. An LVAD is a left ventricle assist device, which will force your heart to pump. It does the work for your heart. So my dad was due to have surgery for this heart pump on a Monday. That Friday, we get the call. They had a donor. My dad went into surgery for the second heart transplant. He survived. My dad is my best friend, and I have watched him go through so many things. So after his second heart transplant, I was in the military. I served in the Army. I was a commissioned officer. I was over a maintenance company, doing things totally out of my realm, right? So I started having some signs and symptoms, and I just brushed them off. I was having chest pains. I was always nauseated. I was tired. I slept all the time. I couldn't keep up my physical requirements in the military. So I went on Google. You know, everything on the internet's true. Don't do that, okay? Do not do that. I Googled my symptoms, and I self-diagnosed myself that it was my gallbladder. Yep. So I went to my doctor, and I said, take my gallbladder out. So she checked me out, and she said, I'm pretty sure it's not your gallbladder. I said, okay. She said, I want to run an EKG just because of your family history. She ran the EKG right there. It took 5 minutes. It takes longer to hook up an EKG than it does to run it, okay? She ran it. It kicked back abnormal. She ran it again. Abnormal again. She ran it one more time. It was abnormal. She said, due to your father's history, I'm going to send you on for further testing. So she did. They put dye in my heart instead of doing a heart cath on me. And the very next day, they called me and they told me that I had dilated cardiomyopathy and that I was in stage 2 heart failure. So at the age of 32, with 2 young children, I was now in the position and worried that my children were going to watch me suffer through life, as I did with my father. So heart disease is not going to punch my family anymore. I have to live with it, and I'll have this battle for the rest of my life. But the way that I cope with such a tragedy in my life is speaking out and telling my story. Telling someone else that go to the doctor. Don't ignore signs and symptoms. It doesn't matter what you do, what you look like, who you are, how old you are. You have to pay attention to those signs and symptoms, and you have to take charge of your health. There are things that we can do on a daily basis to be proactive and to take care of ourselves. For me, it was, and I struggle. I can always make changes, okay? But for me, driving down the road, run through McDonald's, grab a cheeseburger, that's easier to eat and drive, right? That's not good for our health. So take the extra five minutes, eat a salad. Take 30 minutes. Go do 30 minutes of cardio. That's what's important. And getting your checkups is important. Stay on top of things. How long does it take to ask your doctor when you're at your yearly appointment or every 6-month appointment to run an EKG? I would rather know and do the preventative maintenance now than wait until it's too late. I had less than 30% of my heart working when I found out. So I had to fight, and I'm still fighting, and I will continue to fight. I will not let heart disease get me down, because my father and his determination and his will to live is instilled in me as well. And the good Lord knows the plan. And I feel that this is how God wants me to use this tragedy in my life. So this is how I give back. And ladies, it's our job to take care of each other and to encourage each other to stay on top of our health. Thank you all for allowing me the time to share my story.